Okay, let's talk about the vehicles in Europe in Flames 44. And what you have set up here is the vehicles that could be used in the combined arms scenario, which you have seen in previous videos where we combine armor with infantry, anti-tank weapons, etc. Artillery, heavy mortar, that's combined arms. And the only real difference between this and the other variant of the game is the two half-tracks here. The other variant of the game is called Armored Conflict, in which if we have 4 people playing the game, there's upwards of 32 vehicles on the table. And it's a slugfest in armor and vehicles with very few infantry involved. The reason why you have a slight difference is because of the half-tracks. These ones are carrying personnel with a light machine gun on the front. The other 2 half-tracks have anti-tank guns inside of them. We're not going to be precise in the stats. Those of you who maybe are World War II nerds and are heavy into stats and that, this game is not like that. We have rather classified them from lightly skinned, like the supply trucks at this end, lightly armored scout cars, light tanks, half-tracks, medium tanks, and medium to heavy tanks on the end. We don't have specifically heavy tanks in this because the British never really produced a heavy tank to match the Tiger until the very, very closing days of World War II. And so it never really saw any action against the Tiger. So instead what we're doing here is we're having medium heavy tanks go up against each other. You notice that the Panther here has a much longer barrel than the Churchill does, but they both were 75 millimeter, their armor was comparable, and so on. So we're going to have medium heavy tanks as the heaviest tanks in the game. Scout trucks, supply trucks, they are exactly that. They can bring ammunition to vehicles that need it. Any tank can be resupplied by a supply truck. You declare at the start of the match this is going to be a supply truck, or it can be a troop carrier as well, in which it transports infantry. You also can attach an anti-tank gun to it, as well as also onto the half-track as well. You can attach an anti-tank gun to the back of it. We explained that to you in a previous video. The trucks have no armor whatsoever. A scout car, a light tank, medium, and obviously the medium heavy tanks, they all can shoot at it. There's nothing it can do in response. They hope you roll a blank and you miss it. Otherwise, the supply truck is destroyed. Scout car is exactly what its name implies. Very lightly armored. Doesn't take too much for a tank to knock it out, or a mortar or something like that, a bazooka. But their job, they can go very far on 1 credit, and they scout out the enemy. And then they report back on the radio as to the enemy's location. They're the fastest moving vehicle in this game. Then we have light tanks, which as the world progressed and the war progressed and tanks got heavier with bigger guns, they were relegated mostly to scout vehicles, but we're just going to treat them as light tanks. They can attack medium tanks, but they're not allowed to attack the heavy mediums at all. And when they're fighting against the medium tanks, they have to roll a 2 or a 3 only. If they roll a 4 with a black dice, then they have to re-roll. Because their barrels on their guns were 37 millimeters, which were fine at the start of the war, but they were no good by the end of the war. So they can attack scout cars, they can attack supply trucks, they can attack half-tracks, and they can attack medium tanks, but they can only roll 2s and 3s whenever they're doing this. Half-tracks, we've already talked about. These ones are used for transporting infantrymen in a protected vehicle. And you notice this one, for those of you who are World War II buffs, this is actually American, and that's because the British used a lot of American equipment, including this light tank here. The Americans called it the Stuart. named after a famous general of the U.S. Civil War. The British called it the Honey because it was a good little tank and it moved great cross country. So here, yeah, you do have. They also used the Sherman tank as well, and I'm not a fan of the Sherman tank, so I wanted all British stuff as much as possible, British stuff used in the British side. So this leads us to the medium tank. You have the Mark IV, Panzer Mark IV for the Germans. It had been up-armored by the end of the war, had extra plating. This is called Schürzen on the side, or skirts, and it was extra armor. And here we have the Cromwell as well. And these are relatively even matched. Again, we're not going to go into heavy statistics on that. But the mediums will have the same armor strength, the half tracks, and so on. And I'll show you a tally sheet in just a moment that demonstrates all the different armor points on each vehicle. And again, lastly, we have the medium heavy tanks. Both of these were up at some experts say that the Panther should have been classified as a heavy tank, but compared to the Tiger, it was several tonnage less than the Tiger. The Tiger was truly a heavy tank. So I'm calling these two medium heavy tanks, and that's about as high as we're going to go because nothing could really match the Tiger. And we don't want to give that advantage to the Germans. The Churchill did fine. Its barrel was called the 6-pounder, and they came up with a specialty charge for it that was capable of penetrating some of the heavy armor that the Germans were producing. Eventually, they bore it out, and it accepted the 75 millimeter American cartridges or shells, and it wasn't as powerful as it was when it was classified as a 6-pounder. There were upwards of 8 different variations, including a flamethrower of the Churchill. The Panther was designed by the Germans as they were fighting the Russians on the Eastern Front, and they were trying to match the T-34, so they started sloping the armor on the Panther, on the frontal armor. The chassis looks very similar to that of a Russian T-34, and it's got the 75 millimeter with a very long barrel on the front to give it that extra punch. So now that we've just done a quick overview of the vehicles, let's take a look at a very quick tank scenario. All right, so here we have the British Comet, which showed up a little later on in the war, built on the exact same frame chassis as that of the Churchill, given a longer barreled 75 millimeter 6-pounder and a larger turret. But these were classified as the cruiser class. I'm classifying them as medium for convenience sake. And they were fast-moving tanks, even though not really light. And here, this particular Comet has spotted a German Stug. Now, a German Stug is a turretless Panzer Mark IV, and it was a tank killer. It originally was used in infantry support, and it had a really short barrel on it, but as time went by, they put Schürzen on the side of it there, the skirting on the side, and a long 75 millimeter barrel. And they used it primarily in the role of hunting tanks. Obviously, because it doesn't have a turret, it has to traverse the whole tank when it's going to move and fire. The barrel could swing left and right a little bit, but basically you had to maneuver the entire tank. Hitler really liked these for some reason. They're low profiled, easy to hide, and yet powerful enough to take out any Allied tank. This Stug has taken out a Matilda, and actually this is an early war tank that did not fight in 44, but we use it as kind of a decoration on the table for men to hide behind and so on. This tank was a good tank in 41, 42, until the Germans came up with better guns. But this Stug has taken out the Matilda, and now we see that the Comet has snuck up behind the Stug, and actually he's going to broadside the Stug. And to do so, when infantry fight each other, both players roll and the larger number wins. And if you roll a tie, then it's a re-roll. or a miss, I should say. But here in the armored conflict, because each tank has a limited number of shells, then we treat it slightly different. The Comet is going to attack the Stug. And so we roll the black dice, and he got a 3. And now the Stug is going to roll in defense. And so he rolls, and he actually got a blank. So what we do then, because I rolled a 3, we go to the Comet that had rolled that, and it was Comet A, and he fired 1 armor-piercing round on his tally sheet. Now, if you look here, you can see there are armor-piercing rounds, high explosive rounds. There is, it tells you the main gun's 24 inches line of sight. The machine gun gets 6 bursts, 18 inches line of sight. You also get 1 replenishment of ammo if you have a supply truck with ammo on it declared at the front or the start of the game. But notice here it says front armor 7 points, side armor 4 points, rear armor 3 points, top armor 2 points. And so because I shot the left side of his tank and I rolled a 3, he would put 3 dots on the side of his tank on his tally sheet. So 1 more hit, that armor is defeated. As long as I roll higher than him, that armor would be defeated and that Stug would be destroyed on the battlefield. So that's the bare bones basics. We have some laser tools we use to make sure. Now in this case, we have what's called the cupola, which is right there. And the cupola is where the commanding officer comes out. If a tank has been sitting dormant for at least 1 complete cycle of turns where everyone has played their turn, then we believe that, or we declare that the commanding officer has come up out of his cupola and he has 90 degrees field of view, not 360 degrees, but 90 and 90. So he gets 180 degrees field of view in front of him, including his peripheral. And it would be debated as to whether or not he would have spotted this comet coming up beside him or not. But we do have laser tools that we use to help measure such things to find out if that's the case. But that's a very quick scenario of armored combat.